The chance of development is going up as expected. It's going to be a little bit higher. I want to show you where something could develop and why. So we'll cover that. I want to compare the American model with the European model, but what's going on, what's kind of steering a potential area that we are watching. Here's the behind the scenes look at the European model. You see in the Western Caribbean, that darker green shading in there now saying in about a week or so, about a 50 to 60% chance of some development in here. But here's the catch. Does it lift up to the north through the Western Caribbean toward the Gulf, or does it shift off toward the Eastern Pacific? I want to show you exactly what I'm watching there. Now, as we work our way out, there's tropical waves that are headed in. Here's one tropical wave. This is going to increase our chance of rain eventually for Guyana, Suriname further, and then over toward Grenada and Trinidad and Tobago. So the next tropical wave, it is coming. Now in the short term, it is not going to develop, but as this moisture pools into the Caribbean, it just adds the moisture in the Caribbean, and eventually as it works toward the Western Caribbean, that's where there could be some development. So there's that rain that we're watching right on the edge of Trinidad already this morning. I'll keep an eye on some of that rain as we go throughout the day, but there's that area, and that will eventually move across and add moisture to the environment in the Caribbean. Heavy threat to flooding once again, parts of Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, and then creeping back toward Honduras. We need to watch out for some mudslides. That is going to be a potential. Then to the north, that spin that I was tracking that I showed you did stay right on track, lifting up toward the Atlantic region of Canada, but this is going to bring a significant severe weather threat as we go throughout the day in the central sections of the U.S. with tornadoes likely and some damaging winds. Now, let me show you the American model. Then we'll compare the European. Here's what's going on. We have this rain right here, right now. This area should develop in the Eastern Pacific. Hang with me. I want to show you three spots I'm watching in the Eastern Pacific, but the next tropical wave will be moving in. So let's go out in time here further, just day by day, watching the heavier rain as we go throughout parts of Central America today. Then keeping an eye on how close some of the rain gets to Jamaica tomorrow. Most of it still down to the south, but it starts to creep in, and there's the rain starting to build further. Suriname, Guyana, and then getting closer to us in Trinidad, where our rain chance is going to be bumping up. So this is our Sunday. We go out on time into Monday, and you see this area shifting a little bit to the north. So this may creep in. We may start to see some showers creeping in earlier in the week, a better chance of rain, say, for us in Jamaica. There's that area of rain that will be moving into the southeastern Caribbean, and of course the really heavy rain, parts of Central America with that flood threat. Look how that rain continues to stick around. Now, as we work our way, jumping ahead to the middle of the week, this is by Wednesday. Here's this area of rain. There's the moisture with that next tropical wave that continues to slide in. Now, here's what's going to go on. There's a chance this either lifts to the north or moves its way back toward the west. Now, with that said, the American model is not developing anything too quickly, but almost all the models showing a big area of rain starting to kind of form in the Western Caribbean. The American model wants to shift it a little bit more to the north. If that happens, that could bring some additional rain eventually to the Cayman Islands, near Jamaica, Cuba, and Central America as we work our way into next week. The American model does eventually have this area developing into a tropical storm as it moves into the Gulf, but the American model sometimes is a little bit too aggressive at development. Most of the models take this area and shift it back toward the west, back into the Eastern Pacific. Let me show you that and why with the European model. So here we are to orient you: Jamaica, Cuba, Florida, Bahamas, Barbados, St. Lucia, Puerto Rico. Here's Belize right here. So what we're watching is this spot here. Does it shift more to the east, or rather west rather, or does it shift a little bit more to the north? Now, let's go out in time here. So the European model just ticking ahead. Now, all of the models seeing a buildup of rain. You can see just some more moisture around there, some of the extra rain as we get into the middle of the week. This would be by Wednesday near Trinidad. There's some of the extra rain that is around. So all of the models see some of that extra rain around, and then seeing that rain that's going to be building near Trinidad and Grenada, even St. Vincent. That'll just add to the moisture in the Caribbean. All right. Here's what's kind of shaking in the atmosphere. As we go out in time here further, this is a week from now. So this is next Saturday. You see all this rain building right in through here in the Western Caribbean and Central America, some additional rain in the Eastern Caribbean. What I'm watching, there'll be some development over here. And again, I'll cover this in just a moment. What I'm watching are these fronts up to the north. This area here, the European model is kind of swinging it a little bit more back to the west versus what the American model is doing, bringing it to the north. north. It all depends on a front up to the north. If this front digs down a little bit more, if it's a little bit more south, it may take this area and lift it up to the north. But if the front stays a little bit more to the north, it just kind of passes by and this area shifts off to the west. So it depends on a front that is up to the north as we work our way into Tuesday of the following week. So this is by June 17th. The European model says that this front does not grab that area. So this area shifts into the eastern Pacific and starts to develop in the eastern Pacific. So again, it depends on this front. I expect a buildup of rain in the western Caribbean. If this front is strong and more down to the south, it could grab the area of rain, lift it up into the Gulf and develop it. But if this front stays a little bit weaker and more to the north, this area of rain that starts to form will just shift its way off toward the eastern Pacific. I hope that makes sense. That's what we'll be watching together. Now, the water temperature is certainly warm enough this time of year for development. They have been warming, no doubt, and especially in parts of the Gulf and Western Caribbean, right where we're watching, eastern Pacific. It is very warm, 90 degrees Fahrenheit in spots, 31 degrees Celsius. So watching the environmental conditions. Now, next weekend, the wind shear is going to be a little bit more up to the north. Now, what the heck do I mean by that? This map is crazy. Wind shear is a good thing in the hurricane season. Those are winds way above our head that come across developing systems and knock off the thunderstorm tops. So we like wind shear. It helps prevent things from developing. The wind shear, the highest wind shear is this red shading we're seeing up in here by Sunday, say back toward Cuba, the Florida Keys, back into the Gulf. Now, south of there, the wind shear is not as strong back through Central America, and I bring that up. That may give an area a little window to develop since the wind shear right in through here in parts of Central America is not super intense by the time we get into next weekend. So a lot to watch, a lot of ingredients to watch, but the threat of development is a little higher, but it looks a little bit more so on the eastern Pacific side. And with that said, there's always wrinkles, right? We have another round of dust. This is the dust right now. Some of us still have some of that haze or dust around parts of the U.S., back through the Bahamas, back through the Caribbean. Another shot of dust is coming in, but that doesn't prevent things from developing necessarily. You get some rounds of dust, but in between those, you can get development, and that's what we're going to be watching as we get into the week ahead and eventually next weekend. Now, a couple areas we're watching here. This is the severe weather threat today. This is that spin we are watching off the coast of the Carolinas, which as expected did not develop. It'll bring extra rain to the Atlantic region of Canada, but that severe weather threat is going to stick around for days. Parts of the central, south central, and southeastern United States. There's the rain tomorrow in Newfoundland as we work our way to the Avalon Peninsula. Here's some of that rain as we swing back toward the southeast U.S. Days and days of a severe weather threat right in through here. Tornado threat, damaging winds will be a possibility. So we're going to be monitoring that as well. But as far as any tropical development off the east coast of the U.S., not seeing that at this time. Here's where there's going to be development, and actually 3 spots to really keep an eye on. 2 right now, but there'll be a little area back behind it. So let's go out in time. Now what I'm watching is to see how close these get to the Mexican coast. You see here by tomorrow afternoon we start to get some development, but for the most part, even if this area develops into Barbara, which would be the next named system, this area should stay just offshore. There's that 3rd area back behind it. So 3 spots we're watching out here. 1, 2, here's 3 areas. This is the one in the middle should develop, hopefully stay just offshore. This one continues to work its way to the west, and then watching the spot back behind it. So we'll monitor this. This is by Tuesday. This area should continue to shift its way to the west, eventually encounter some colder waters, and eventually weaken, but watching several areas here, and then we'll see more of that moisture building, and we'll see as we get into next week. Does the rain that builds near Central America shift north, or does it continue to slide off toward the eastern Pacific side? Now, on top of all of that, watching the ash. There's been fuego erupted a couple days ago right near Guatemala City. That's a big-time volcano. The initial burst sent a lot of SO2, so we're talking about sulfur dioxide, which is unhealthy air, into the atmosphere. Because of these areas developing in the eastern Pacific, the winds kind of drew that more back toward Mexico. There's been some recent eruptions, kind of spotty eruptions overnight in Fuego, so the air quality right around Guatemala, especially central and southern sections, and then swinging back toward Mexico, are going to be unhealthy as we go over the next several days. With that in the atmosphere. If you have breathing issues, it's going to be worse. So thinking of you with that. Now, as far as the seas go, we'll see a chop building in the Caribbean as these tropical waves start to work in. That next tropical wave is coming. So you see by the time we get into Tuesday, things are going to be a little bit bumpier, not only in the Caribbean, but the Atlantic passageways with the rain building and a new tropical wave that is sliding in. As far as rain goes, looking at the totals, some of us get some thunderstorms, some of us stay dry, hit or miss. Bahamas, watching toward the Florida Keys, back through Cuba. Same thing, Cayman Islands and Jamaica. Jamaica, we'll see if some of that rain to the south tries to sneak in on Sunday. We may see it get a little bit closer, but either way, we have some spotty showers and storms. Same thing, Puerto Rico, U.S., British Virgin Islands, Anguilla, just swinging around the Horn, St. Kitts and Nevis. But Trinidad, that's where we could get some spots, and even Grenada of 50 millimeters of rain or 2 inches of rain as we go through the weekend, but more so into next week, because this is that next tropical wave that's coming. Suriname and Guyana, the elevated flood threat, rain totals 150 millimeters in some locations, especially closer to the water. That is going to lend itself to flooding, and then we'll see the rain building in Central America. Very concerned about this, especially Honduras south. That's where we'll see the higher totals, but Belize will get some spotty showers and storms. Belize in about a week or so, the rain chance is going to get even higher, so it's going to start to build in. Spotty shower around Mexico City, and then we swing here. This is where that severe weather threat is, especially later today, in through the next couple days. Oklahoma, Arkansas, northern sections of Mississippi, Alabama, watching Tennessee, watching Kentucky, where we could get dumped on with a few inches of rain, but more so monitoring that tornado threat right in that area. So 30 to 40% chance of a shower or storm the next few days for us in Jamaica, 30 to 40% chance in the Cayman Islands, 40% chance on Monday. That's some of that moisture from the south that may try to work in. And then you see the rain chance, not a washout, but it starts to build for us, Trinidad and Tobago, as we work our way through the weekend into next week. 20 to 30% chance in Barbados, a 40% chance today in St. Lucia, a 30% chance for tomorrow. Could get a couple of the showers around Trinidad and Tobago and around Grenada. So rain chance holding at 40 to 50%, and a 40% chance St. Vincent and the Grenadines, mainly southern islands where we'll see a better chance. Isolated shower the next couple of days in Martinique, monitoring any of that earthquake activity. We had an earthquake near Dominica and Martinique a day ago. Isolated shower storm Dominica. And the same thing as we swing back toward Guadeloupe, and it will be in the hot side, plus more dust that will eventually be moving in. Isolated shower for us, Antigua, Barbuda, isolated 30% chance the next 2 days. St. Kitts and Nevis and Montserrat, 20% chance Anguilla and St. Bart's, and a 20% chance hold St. Martin, Saba, and Statia. Isolated passing shower or thunderstorm in Puerto Rico the next few days, and just that 20% chance St. Croix, back through Tortola and over toward St. John. Now, the Bahamas, isolated shower storm, especially with some action coming off of Florida. 20% chance of a shower, Turks and Caicos. Rain chance will build some in the Dominican Republic by Monday. We'll be up to about a 50% chance and a 40% chance by Monday in Haiti. 30 to 40% chance in Belize, so some spotty showers and storms around. As the month goes on, the rain chance is going to get higher. Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, that rain chance stays low. Can't rule out a passing shower, but overall on the low side, but it gets higher in Guyana, an 80% chance for tomorrow. It gets higher in Suriname, a 90% chance by tomorrow. Watching the flooding. And you see in Cuba by Monday, we're up to a 50% chance of rain. And there's that high chance of rain around Costa Rica, around Panama, watching out for the flooding, and around Nicaragua, where we're up to a 70% chance of rain. And that's going to hold, and it even builds into next week as we get over toward Honduras, over toward Roatan, watching some of that rain that will be building. And there's that 80% chance, Guatemala and El Salvador, and watching that air quality carefully. Next couple of days, Mexico City, just a spotty shower storm. Spotty shower storm possible. Yucatan Peninsula, Merida, back through Cozumel. Northern Colombia, rain chance 40%. Building some, though, as we get into northern Venezuela as we work our way through the weekend into next week. Bermuda, isolated chance of a shower. Most of the moisture is up to the north. So tropical wave moving in. Rain and flood threat increases for a lot of us, especially near Central America, tracking the ash and the air quality, and still monitoring the earthquake activity. Now, once we get a named storm on the Atlantic Basin side, the first name on the list will be Andrea. Thank you for being with me. Have a really good day ahead.